Gardeners, welcome back to Strawberry Hill. It is fall, and that means we are doing some fall garden activities right here in our garden. So the main activity we're doing right now, because most things are dying and you can't really plant much now except for garlic, which we will be doing next weekend. What we're doing is prepping the gardens for the spring. We're actually doing that prep now so that once spring occurs and the snow melts and the ground thaws, we can go straight to planting and not have to worry about doing the garden prep at that time. So we're doing the garden prep now, and I'm going to show you our method that we use that you can use to start your own garden. And you can either do this in the fall like I'm doing now, or you can do it in the spring, which is what we did when we first moved here in the spring. This is how we started our garden. This is a no-till method, so you don't need a fancy tiller. You don't need any money. I'm going to show you the 5 free things that you might already have in your own house and garden, or that you can find in your local community to use to start your garden for absolutely no money. So these are 5 free things that you can find nearby. Might take a little digging, but you should be able to find them to start your garden, and the method that we use in our garden to start it. So I'll show you now. Here's the 5 things.
The first item that you're going to need for this method is an item that you probably already have a lot of, or if not, you might know somebody who does, who can give you some for free, and that is cardboard. Now this is going to be the weed barrier. We're going to put this down on the ground under everything else, and it's going to block out the weeds and gradually break down. Any cardboard will do. Make sure it's not coated in plastic. It can be the little inserts like these that I had in some apple boxes. It can be just any cardboard boxes you have. It can be paper bags, or newspapers will work as well. If you don't have any of your own, check on Facebook Marketplace. You might be able to find somebody who's getting rid of it. The second free item that you probably already have in your garden and have been probably underutilizing is leaves. Now that it's fall and the plants are losing their leaves, a lot of people like to rake up their leaves, pile them into bags, and send them to the landfill. But I'm going to tell you right now that that is a waste. Of course, a bunch of people watching this right now are probably saying, but we're supposed to leave the leaves. And that's great. And I hope you are saying that as an entomologist. Absolutely, that's right. We want to leave the leaves for pollinators, for a lot of different insects and other arthropods that live in the leaf litter and rely on it for habitat during the winter and spring and fall. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter where the leaves are as long as they're still, in your yard or on some other natural area. So leaving the leaves doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave them exactly where they fell. You can still rake them up and use them in other places in your yard to serve as habitat for those pollinators. So here I'm gently raking up the leaves, very gently, so if there are any arthropods already on them, which they probably aren't because these are pretty freshly fallen, they'll be fine. So these leaves are going to serve as a moisture barrier for the garden. They're of course going to be habitat for beneficial arthropods in our soils, and they are going to gradually be broken down by those arthropods and become nutrients. If you don't have any leaves in your yard, but you still want to use some free leaves for this particular gardening method, you can do what we did when we first moved in and drive by nearby neighborhoods and look for people who have these bags of leaves at their curb and pick them up and take them home. One thing you do want to watch for, though, is sometimes they can contain branches and seeds and berries and hopefully not dead bodies, but who knows, somebody might be trying to dispose of dead bodies, so just double check that before you take it. The third and fourth items that you can use to help start your garden for free are wood chips and logs. Now, one way to get these is through Chip Drop, but lately we've had very limited success with that. So we actually had more success recently by cold calling local tree companies and letting them know that if they were doing any work in our area, they could dump the wood chips and or logs in our yard, and they were happy to do so for free. This most recent load actually came right from our next door neighbor's yard. They were having tree work done. My husband noticed, went over, talked to the crew, and asked the crew if they would dump it on our yard. And they were happy to do it. It saved them a trip to wherever they were going to have to take all that stuff to and pay to dump it. So it's a win-win for both parties. You can usually use that. If not, try looking on Facebook Marketplace. The last free ingredient that you'll need for this method is manure. I just happened to drive by this pile of free horse manure, but you can check Facebook Marketplace and look for free manure near you. Doesn't have to be from horses either. So now we're going to put together all those items you gathered to make our free, no-till, minimal effort, mostly organic garden bed that you can use for planting vegetables or fruit trees or fruiting bushes or flowers, whatever you want to plant. This is a great way to start that bed. Now, you want to have all your ingredients there and have your cardboard collapsed and any tape removed, ready to go. Try not to get distracted by me. I got distracted by some grape tomatoes that were falling off the vines that were killed by the freeze earlier this week. And I was gathering up all those fallen tomatoes and setting them aside because I want to try to eat them. Now, first thing you can do is you can prep the area. You can cut the grass or even tear up any weeds there, but I didn't feel the need to do that because I'm not going to be planting for a few months. I have time, let's see, at least 6 months, 6 to 7 months before I'm planting. So I have time for those weeds to be killed off gradually by smothering. So go ahead and remove any big pieces that might be there, but then go ahead and just put your cardboard down. And how many layers of cardboard you do is up to you. If you have a lot of time to wait and you're really worried about weeds, you can do extra layers. I'm not too worried, so I just did 1 layer of cardboard. Now on top of your cardboard, you're going to put your manure. And again, if you have a lot of time to wait, like I do, you could do unfinished manure. I actually have finished manure, so that's fine too. If you're going to plant just within weeks of doing this method, you will want to make sure that the manure you have is composted, fully finished manure, not fresh. Because if it's fresh, it will burn or kill the plants from too much nutrition, too hot as they call it. So spread your manure out. How thick you do it is up to you. If you have a plant that needs a lot of nutrition, do it thicker. If you have a plant that needs less nutrition, do it thinner. I did it about 3 inches. I don't know what I'm going to plant here yet. Then on top of the manure, you're going to do your mulch layer. That's either going to be the wood chips, if you were lucky enough to get a load of wood chips, or the leaves that you were able to gather either from your yard or neighbors' yards. And you're going to spread that mulch, again, because I have many months to wait. I'm doing it super thick. This is like a foot thick of leaf litter. The wood mulch is denser, so you don't want to do that as thick. If you're doing wood chips, you could do it like 3 to 6 inches deep. Probably stick to 3 inches for something like this. But leaves, you can go extra thick because these are going to compact down under snow and things like that. And how long you're going to let this wait is, again, depending on how soon you need to plant. I would give it at least a few weeks, but if you have many months, do that. If you're somewhere where you're not going to get regular precipitation, you want to spray it down once a week or so to help that breakdown of all these products. But otherwise, since I'm going to have snow sitting on this for a few months and lots of rain, I'm just going to let it sit and cook with that moisture and the animals. And I went ahead and put up a border, and now we wait. Now, this is what you can do with the wood logs that I mentioned earlier that I didn't show in that last part of the video because I had those cement blocks that I was able to use that we found on the property when we moved in. So if you don't have cement blocks just laying around and you don't want to spend money to buy wood or a metal raised bed, this is your option for a free raised bed. Not super tall, but just drag the logs over, line it out, and that's how you start it. And so this bed I already prepped yesterday. We put the logs here, then we threw a bunch of weeds down in the middle. I put cardboard on top of those, and then all this horse manure on top. And I want you guys to look at this beautiful horse manure. My source for this particular batch of horse manure, because I now have 3 sources for free manure. This source had 15 years worth of horse manure in a big mountain on her property, and she let me take as much as I wanted. So that was really excellent to get some free manure. She lives like 5 minutes down the road, so not a big carbon footprint to go get it in my Subaru. Put it in those cardboard boxes to transport it here, and that is just full of shit. This bed is full of shit in the best way possible. So I still need to cover it. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to cover this manure with wood chips or leaves. Since we have both, I'll probably do wood chips, but that's going to be a nice, beautiful lasagna bed. And if you're wondering how effective my method is, here's some more. This one is not a raised bed. This is straightened ground using the same method though. I've got cardboard on the bottom, then manure, then I'll put leaves on top. Over there I used straw. That was just grass that we cut, really tall grass on the property that we cut and let dry and then put on top of the manure. So that's ready for garlic planting next weekend. But if you're wondering how effective this method is, it's what we used in all our beds in the spring to get started super fast. And look at all these tomatoes left after the freeze. We had a freeze this week that ended our tomato season. I did not cover them. I could have and I should have and I would have, but alas, I did not. I didn't plan effectively, but look how many tomatoes are left in the middle of October after a freeze that we could have harvested. And we've already harvested from all of our tomato plants in the yard every week for like the last 6 to 8 weeks straight. We've gotten hundreds of pounds of tomatoes out of this property using this no-till, free, organic method to grow all these tomatoes. That's the only way you should grow vegetables, is if you're doing it free like this. If you're spending money, you're just better off buying it at the store, but using free manure, free leaves, free wood chips, free cardboard, we grow so much up here. It's crazy. We had a lot of nice basil too that also got bit by the frost, the freeze this week, and our beans, of course. This volunteer corn, we did not plant this corn, it volunteered. This area we never got around to doing the method. We did a tiny bit of manure and a tiny bit of mulch, but we didn't get around to doing the full lasagna method of cardboard, manure, mulch before planting. So these are the saddest plants in the yard where I didn't do the method. And I'll go show you on the other side of the yard where we did have time to do the full method, what it looks like. So these are the plants over here where we had the time in the spring to put down cardboard, put down manure, put down wood chips and grass clippings, whatever we had, and then plant directly in the ground with no tilling. And just look at all this growth we had over here. Way different from the other side of the yard where we didn't have the time to do all that because that side wasn't planned out. We just had extra plants and needed to put them somewhere, but I've just been so impressed. Now these tomatoes, half of them were covered with a frost cloth. I did get one frost cloth that I covered this side of the yard with, but because the tomatoes were on the fence, this part of the tomatoes on the fence didn't get covered, and you can see dead, alive. Kind of amazing. But again, look how many tomatoes we had. Look how many. We grew so many tomatoes using our no-till organic lasagna method. We also grew lots of cucumbers, lots of zucchinis, lots of potatoes. The Brussels sprouts are getting big. Look at this celery. Look at these kale plants. Grew a lot of broccoli. Onions, I'm still trying to perfect my onion growing, but we grew some onions. These bok choy plants are out of control with seeds. So that is our no-till, free, organic, no cost or low cost gardening method that you can use to start a garden very quickly, very easily, with minimal effort. No digging, no tilling, just digging to put your transplants in. But that is the method I recommend, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you will be inspired to try this method to quickly, cheaply, and easily grow your own vegetables or fruits or whatever you decide to plant. Anyway, thank you for watching, and happy gardening.